population of the Kurds in the Middle East amounts to 25 million, and maybe another study says 40 million. So this is quite difficult to study this issue and its importance, because about 15 million difference between, and this reveals the hidden conflict between the main involved countries in the Kurdish issue and the other regional forces and international forces that try to that attempt to exploit this issue in serving their interests between time and time. The second point that we have come across is in our research that the, the countries that accommodate Kurds, Syria, Iran, Turkey, and Iraq, their reaction varies from one period of time to another. Sometimes they try to contain the Kurds through political repression and economic repression in their regions, and on other stages, these countries resort to military solution, and sometimes the Kurdish militia start, or maybe they launch or start the hostilities in the region. So we need to we need to compare between Russia and the United States in exploiting the Kurdish issue in the Middle East. For the political indicator, we will find that the first point that the similarity in the exploitation, because each of the two countries, Russia and the United States, uses exploits the Kurds politically to achieve goals in the region. For the United States, in dividing the area more and or in the framework of what we call the new Sykes-Picot, or for the Russia, the dismantling the region and dividing the region will influence and will have an impact on the Russia national security if the region is divided, and if there is a new Kurd state, will be some new current, some new factions, some new their government directly. That is, the United States is an enemy for Iran and Syria, and the reality reveals that, and the war in Syria indicates that the United States supports the Kurds in order to topple the Syrian regime, and after that to fight terrorism. Also the case for Iran and for Iraq. As the previous speakers stated, that Iraq exploited Kurds for many times in Iraq. For the my third point, when we compare the political dimension, each of the two countries exploit the Kurds in order to fight terrorism, especially in Syria, when the Russia and the United States used the Kurds to fight terrorism and supporting them, so they're providing them with military assistance or intelligence assistance. As for the economic indicator, we find that Russia and the United States compete through their investments, by their investment in the region. The Russian investments increased in this region from 2004 to 2016 from $20 million to $70 billion, especially in the field of oil and gas that Kurdistan region has. After that, the United States provided $50 million for the opposition, including the Kurds in Iraq after the 2003 invasion. The aim is clear, or the objective is clear, as the previous speaker indicated, that the United States wanted to exploit the Kurds in order to serve it in Iraq. Also, we found that Russia 2017 divided the Kurds with a loan of, to build military facility on its land in Syria. In 2006, there was a study by the magazine Survivor that 82% of the Kurds do not support the American policy in the middle politics in the Middle East. In conclusion, we have come into the following: is not given haphazardly, but it will have an impact on them, and the Kurds must compensate the Russians and the United States for that assistance. Therefore, the issue is a matter of civilization decision or military solution, or just asking assistance from the foreign parties. United States strategy is it resort to to help collapse the Middle East countries of some countries in order to protect Israel and also to facilitate the fragmentation and dismantling of the state countries in the region in order to achieve the goal. And here so they are fabricating wars or promoting wars in the region. Regional conflict and disputes in the Middle East have started to take a nationalism identity more than military or political reasons, because the United States and Russia are fully aware that the difficult discussions for the conflicts, most difficult conflicts that arise from doctrine and religious beliefs. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Muhammad. We would like to thank the political conflict in Iraq. The Turkmens are the second minority in Iraq after the Kurds. Dr. Qusay is having a PhD in the Arab Islamic history. He occupied many military positions in the Iraqi armed forces and received many awards. In the name of Allah, O people, we have created you from a female and a male, and we made you tribes so that you recognize each other. The most dignified of you, those who are closer to Allah. Ladies and gentlemen, please, peace, mercy, and blessings from Allah be upon you. The international and regional impacts on the Turkmen issue will include the following points. Small introduction or short introduction, a glimpse or an overview of Iraq and the massacres that the Iraqi Turkmens were subjected to, and also the strategic interest of the international and regional forces and exploitation of Iraqi Turkmens regionally and internationally. And so we will review the results of our research. Turkmen nationalism is the third nationalism after Arab and Kurd nationalism. It is an integrated part of the Iraqi civilization that contributed, in which it effectively contributed. Turkmen nationalism suffered from different deteriorations, most important of which marginalization and exclusion and Arabization or the demographic change, and it also witnessed maybe the severest ideological and political conflicts from other nationalisms. That conflict was exploited by regional countries and international forces in order to create and promote ethnicity and sectarianism, and to create chaos in the Turkmen regions as other regions and areas in Iraq. A brief history about a short history about Turkmen is a compound word from Turk and Man and Persian as part, this is my opinion actually, as part of the Turkmens immigrated with or moved with their tribes to Khurasan in Iran. There is another opinion saying that their name came from their conviction or embracing of the Turkic tribes Oghuz, which embraced Islam in the 11th century, and therefore their name has become Turkmen. Many opinions, many titles, many definitions, just only to give you a picture about that. Historical documents indicate that the existence of Turkmens in Iraq started in the year 55 after Hijrah, when the Arab leader, Commandant Ubaydullah bin Ziyad, the Turks of Anatolia, and in its opening and battles in Central Asia and Turkmenistan. And when he came back, he settled them in Basra, and they got married there and expanded all over Iraq. The language of the Turkmen, it is the Turkish language, but with an Iraqi dialect. With a close which is used by the citizens of South Turkey and Diyarbakir and the neighborhoods. Turkmens, religious, majority of them embracing Islam in its two sects, Sunnis and Shiite. The Sunnis more than 50%, and the Shiite sect less than that, with the existence of some of the Christian Turkmens centered in Kirkuk, and they are just very few. Population, in fact, or the Turkmen population, just to give you an image about marginalization and exclusion. In 1957, the population of Turkmens amounted to 950,000. 1950, the population in 1997, or what we call the census, and they were about 900,000, less than 50,000. If we take into account that the ratio of the population growth in Iraq 3.8%, so the population of Turkmens should be 3 million. But the demographic change, immigration, displacement, and marginalization made that their number is in decline. The Turkmen existence, if we look at the map, if you can just put the map on the screen. This map I just display to not to teach you about the cities, because cities are not important for us, but I want to show that the Turkmen tribes is spread over this line that you see, which is closer to the eastern borders of Iraq. And therefore this gives us an impression as military that all the consecutive governments made those tribes as the first defense line against any attack from the east. The most important genocides and the massacre that what is the Levy massacre in 1924, and also the massacre of 1959, and also the 1991, and there are other massacres that happened with the Daesh, and all of you know what happened after the year 2014. Who's the Levy army? They are militias founded by the British 1915 from Christians in Anatolia, in the
الذي
Anatolia
كانوا
area
يكنون العداء وينصبون العداء
who
إلى
were quite
الدولة العثمانية.
enemy to the Ottoman
وعند
Empire.
تشكيل الحكومة العراقية
When
عام
the
21
Iraqi government was
1921
formed in
جلبوهم معهم إلى
1921,
العراق
they brought them
ودخلوا
with
إلى
to
العراق
Iraq and they
في
entered
مناطق
Iraq,
عديدة هم منطقة كركوك.
including Kirkuk,
وأحدثوا في عام
and in
1924
1924
المجزرة
they
للمصلين في أول يوم
killed
من
the
عيد المسجد.
prayers on the first day
إذا
of Eid
نيوزيلندا
in
هي
the
ليست أول
mosque.
دولة
So New
يحدث
Zealand
فيها
is
هذا.
not the only
راجع
country
التاريخ
where
وشوف
the
هناك
massacre happened.
مجازر
Just read the history and you will see
أكبر من
other
هذه
massacres happened in the mosque.
الحقيقة هناك تحديات
In fact, there are certain
يواجهها التركمان.
challenges that the
من ضمن
Turkmen
هذه
faces
التحديات
face urbanization and technicalization.
سبعينات القرن
In
الماضي
the 70s
صدر
of
قرار
the
حكومي
last century, there was a
بنقل
government decision
النقل الإداري
to
لبعض الأقضية
administratively
والنواحي
displace some of the
التركمانية
districts
إلى محافظات أخرى.
from Turkmens to
شمشمان
another
أصبحت إلى
other
الكرد إلى
areas, such
السليمانية.
as
شبري
Chemchaman
أصبحت إلى
was
ديالى.
next to
طورماتو
Sulaimani.
أصبحت
Tos
إلى صلاح
Hormatu
الدين.
was next to
تكريت.
Salah ad-Din district
هي
or governorate.
مناطق تركمانية
These
ولكن
are Turkmen
هذا
areas,
قرار
but they
حكومي.
were
هذا ماذا
affiliated
أنتج؟
and put under
أنتج
the umbrella
أنه
of
الأكراد
other districts.
نزحوا
This
هذه
has
المناطق
resulted
في تغيير
in the
ديموغرافي.
Kurds
العرب أيضا
moved
نتيجة
into
للإغراءات
these
التي
areas,
قدمتها
and
الحكومة
also some Arabs, due
المادية
to the
والمعنوية
temptation
أيضا
given by
نزحوا
the
إلى هذه
government,
المناطق.
migrated or
أصبحت الكثافة
moved to
السكانية
that area.
متغيرة
So
على
the
حساب
population density
التركمان.
has become or has
وحتى
changed for
قسم
the
من
favor
التركمان
or
وهنا
against the
نلومهم
favor
نحن
of Turkmen.
أنه بدلوا
And
هويتهم
in some
لأجل
of the
الحصول
communities, they
على
changed their
بعض هذه
ID
المكاسب.
in order to
من
take some of
التحديات
these
الأخرى هي
privileges.
قضية كركوك.
Another
كركوك مثل ما
challenge is the
تعرفون
issue of
أنه
Kirkuk, and
منطقة
you know,
نفطية ذات
Kirkuk
ثروة
is an
نفطية
oil
هائلة.
area that includes
هناك
or
اليوم
contains
أكو
a
نزاع
great
عليها
oil reserves.
نزاع كردي
There
كردي
is
من قبل
there
الحزبين
is
الكرديين
a Kurd
بالإضافة إلى نزاع كرد عربي
conflict and
تركماني.
addition to a Kurd Arab Turkmen
يعني
conflict dominate that area,
لا يمكن إلا
and this cannot be
بأي شكل من
solved
الأشكال
by all
ومن هذه
means
الظروف.
within the perfect
أيضا
circumstances.
التحديات الأخرى هي
Among
عدم القيادة
the challenges that the Turkmen do not have a united or consolidated leadership. The Torani movement is an extremist Turkish movement established in the 19th century between failure and success till the 17th of the 19th century, and because it is extremist, it was banned in Iraq and it was prohibited in Iraq, and those who belong to it were dealt with severely. Or
خارطة المصالح الاستراتيجية الدولية.
the international strategic interest roadmap or map, in fact, the Turks in the 1926 and in 1946
عقدوا اتفاقية
they came into an
بريطانيا
agreement with the British government to interfere in
داخل العمق
or
العراقي
to go into a distance of about 90 kilometers in order to take. Therefore, Turkey believes that it has the right to interfere in Iraq, and also it has the right to join Kirkuk into Kurdistan because the oil pipe goes to Turkish Jihan port through Kurdistan. Also, the Iranians consider the Turkmen paper or issue as a pressing or a pressure factor in the 40s, which as a timely bomb, and they can just set it up at any time or any place, in addition to protect the sick that we don't know. For the American interest, the existence or the presence of the United States in Iraq requires to deal with them easily because they have a strategic alliance, strategic ally, which are the Kurds. Now, the situation of the Iraqi Turkmen now, they were all connected to the Turkmen front, supported by Turkey materially and morally. But in the last last election
اتجهوا إلى
2018,
اتجاهين.
they divided into two
السنة
parts.
راحوا
The
التركمان
Sunnis,
السنة راحوا على الكتل السنية،
they supported the
والشيعة
Sunni
راحوا على
parties,
الكتل
and the
الشيعية. فلذلك
Shiite
أنا
supported the
باعتقادي
Shiite
أنه هم
blocks.
أطلقوا
And,
رصاصة
and I think
الرحمة
that
على
they have
قضيتهم
shot
القضية
uh,
التركمانية.
the the
الحقيقة
mercy
أكو
or the
موضوع
bullet of
فقط
mercy
أريد
on
أتطرق
their
له، هو
Turkoman issue.
المصالح الأمريكية والإسرائيلية
As for
في
the
هذه
American
المنطقة.
and the
هذه
Israeli
المنطقة
interest in
أكو
that
خطة
region,
يسموها خطة
there
دجلة.
is a plan
هم
called the
يريدون
Tigris
الأمريكان
plan.
وإسرائيل
America
يريدون
and
إحياء
Israel wants to
خطة دجلة. خطة
revive
دجلة
the
اللي هو
Tigris
أنبوب
plan,
النفط
which is the
الذي
oil
يمتد
pipe
من
extending
كركوك
from
ثم إلى
Kirkuk
تل أحفر ثم إلى
from
حيفا،
and then to
الذي
Tel
كان
Afar
عام
and then to Haifa,
1948
which was
يغذي
in
فلسطين.
19
هذا
in
انتهى،
1948
ولكن يعني
sending
أدواتها
oil
باقية.
or taking
الآن
oil to
نلاحظ أنه
Palestine.
كل
So
الانتشار
now,
الأمريكي على هذا
now
الخط،
we can
وأيضا
notice that the
المستثمرين
American and the investors and
الإسرائيليين
the
اليهود
Israeli
بدأوا
investors on
بشراء
this line
الأراضي
started to
وبدأوا
buy lands over there, and
بشراء العقارات على
and
طول
also
هذا الخط،
started to
وبالتالي
buy real estate along
يعني
this line,
استحوذوا
and
على
they
هذه
acquired
المنطقة
this
بالتمام.
area.
خلاصة القول،
In conclusion,
ستبقى كركوك
Kirkuk
ضمن التهميش
will
والتغيير
remain
الديموغرافي،
within the exclusion and marginalization
وتعاني
and
ما
demographic
تعاني ما
change,
دام هناك
suffering from a lot of
عدم
things as long as or
استقلال
in the absence of the
وسيادة في
independence,
العراق.
sovereignty in
ونتمنى
Iraq.
أن العراق
And
عندما
we hope
يتعافى
that when
أو
Iraq
سيتعافى
recovers or
حتما
when will it recover,
ستنحل هذه
the
القضايا بالتدريج.
these issues will gradually be
وشكرا
solved.
لإصغائكم،
And thank you
وهذا
for
ما سمح به
listening.
الوقت.
And this is what the
والسلام
time
عليكم
allows
ورحمة
me
الله
to state.
وبركاته.
And thank you very much.
نشكر الدكتور قصي على مداخلته
We
القيمة
would like to thank
والتي
Dr.
أوضحت
Qusay for
شدة
his
الاستقطابات
presentation
والاختلافات في
that
العراق الحديث.
clarified the
وفي نقلة
polarization in
نوعية
Iraq.
أخرى سيحدثنا
In
الأستاذ
another
الدكتور أحمد
topic,
عبد الله آدم
Dr. Ahmed
عن
Abdullah
دولة
Adam
السودان
will
الشقيق
talk about
وعن
the
الدور الدولي
Sudan
والإقليمي في
and the
تخلية
regional and the
الاختلافات الداخلية
international in
ودفع
exploiting
السودان
and
الشقيق
supporting
إلى
the
التقسيم.
promoting the
الدكتور أحمد
internal
أستاذ
divisions
مساعد
in Sudan
في
in
التاريخ
order
الحديث
for
والمعاصر،
the
حاصل
division
على
of
الدكتوراه
Sudan.
في الفلسفة
He
في
is a
التاريخ
PhD
الحديث من
holder
جامعة الجزيرة عام 2008. له العديد من
from Al
الأوراق
Jazeera
العلمية
University,
المحكمة
many
داخل وخارج السودان،
refereed articles
كمشارك في
and
العديد
papers
من المؤتمرات.
within and
فليتفضل
outside
مشكورا.
Sudan, and he also
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام. Allah. Very much. I thank the University of Qatar for providing me with this opportunity, and thank to Ibn Khaldun Center for. We want to speak about my study actually speaking about the exploitation of the superpower of this nationals. My paper will tackle. We have 45 pages. Contains the exploitation of the Sudan, southern part of Sudan, as a model for the achieving the interest. We have four achieving their own interest. I have question here: to what extent can we say the United States, as superpower, have contributed to supporting the south of Sudan? And within this question, we have some question. Is there any differences among the nationalism in Sudan? If the conflict in the southern part of Sudan, is it has any historical background, and what is the role of the American that led to Nefasha 2011 convention with which has led to the latest country, South Sudan, and what kind of support provided the United States as superpower to achieving this goal? This study started from hypothesis, which there is a differences, racial difference in Sudan, and conflict between North and South was has historical background, and even the situation of the South of Sudan has national dimension, and the intervention of the superpower and the United States has exploited these differences for achieving their own interest in this area. The studies spoke about the objectives and the importance and the methodology. The first part focuses on identification and general concepts. I wish that be clean, but I don't have time. the and also I don't want to speak about the ideology about nationalism and the terminology, and also the different methodologies related to this concept with with different identification. After that, the Middle East concept of Middle East, which is a concept that is connected directly to the colonial view related to superpower and their interest in this area. The second part speaks about the south of Sudan, which is a little bit complicated. This country, south part of it, has many ethnic groups. It is not only one group. They have many ethnic groups who are different. Denka, which is the largest one in the Equatorial, Nuer, and Shuluk, and the Upper Nile, Zari, and many other tribes has represented the human uh, component. This is the second part, which is the national. I will not go deeper into these details. Anyone who wants, you can come and I will give you the document. Third one is about the historical development of the South Sudan. Is it connected to today's or contemporary reality that led to the Vasha Convention that isolated Sudan into two parts, two countries? We spoke about the consequence since the Turkish rule in Sudan that the they have created the country of Sudan, which is the contemporary. It was at that time it was Islamic groups. Before that, there was no relation between North and South. No relation. It was not known relations at that time between North and South of Sudan. So, and when the Turkish Egyptian rule came into Sudan, created slavery, and the Turkish and some Sudanese were involved in slavery, and some Sudanese also were involved. That's why the view at that time that they look at the north of Sudan is different, and the north of the Sudan was considered as part of the slavery trade. So that's why they have crystallized their idea that this North Sudanese people are part of the slavery trade, fueled by the government of Turkish Muslim. The Mahdi were at that time has an attitude to go to the Middle East and didn't take care of South Sudan. The Southern people tried to be included in the revolution of Mahdi. The Mahdi has an aim to be with the Egyptian. When the Egyptian Turkish after 1889, the real intentions have been crystallized and they have their own objective. The United States now has inherited the British colonial era. The British administration, when they occupied Sudan, they started treating the southern part of Sudan as an independent administrative unit. So they blocked the south of Sudan, and they didn't uh, they banned speaking Arabic, and they make this the Friday on the north and Sunday on the Sunday as holidays. So they divided actually the Sudan into two parts. So the part Sudan has an image which is different from the south. After that, they have a law enacted by the British, what they call it the blocked area law, and they created the military troop in the south of Sudan, and they isolated the south from any Islamic features. So during the Egyptian English Egyptian rule in Sudan was the put an end of the historical sequence for the isolation of the Sudan. The fourth and the last part of this of my study was focusing the American support. The United States, after the isolation policy, inherited the British colonial era, trying to control after the Second World War, and as you know, the isolation of the African countries, and that's why American idea to have Africa as divided continent, and the relationship became very clear when when the American intervention came, since the Bill Clinton, president of the United States, and this administration looks the American interest in the African continent with in a different view. After the George Bush came to power, and after September, and the United States of America looked at the whole world to control within the framework of fighting terrorism. This American attitude to the British role after the third military coup, 1989, the vision was clear. After when the American administration branded the military regime in Sudan as dictatorship, and they are supporting terrorism, and they are against the American interests, and they will maintain pressure on the government of Sudan through the human rights files and also economic and financial blockade. So the American administration now tend to have a different attitude in dealing with the Sudanese issue, and the law was the south part of Sudan. The American administration started through pressure of African origin, played an important role in maintaining pressure on the government of Sudan through the war terror and others. So the American vision was very clear in isolating some political systems in the Middle East. So the United States was thinking of creating regional alliance in the Middle East, and Sudan was part of this issue. So the American administration started showing a kind of sympathy with the rebels in the south part of Sudan, which was the longest war and more tragedies in the African continent through this attitude. Since Joseph Lago, the American intervention started through the military assistance and logistical support and different types of support. With the negotiation, the long has been prolonged, and there are some initiatives through using its vision to create change, because this is the important part for the Americans. So that's why there is severe intervention of American. Chevron, the American company, started excavation since Jafar Numeri, and after 1983, they withdrew. Then the southern part of Sudan became was representing an important strategic dimension. The U.S. started supporting the ethnic southern part of Sudan for preparing creating Nefasha, isolated the north from south. After that, there was fueling the southern part of Sudan by saying that they have to work together to create their own independence. The vision started since the Bill Clinton. After that, the Sudanese state came on the edge of American planning for creating this vision and objectives. In 1989, reports from Pentagon and using the water and rejection of all initiative from Libya and IGAD, so that the United States to be the only player for negotiation between North and South. And the situation was very clear that the United States was trying to lead Sudan and to push them to the isolation at the end of the day by creating or enlarging this event, so that to be a motive for the southern people of Sudan to be isolated. The American role as strategic political aims to open military bases, just like in Djibouti. The American administration focusing on oil reserves and oil and this. And finally, it has led to the Convention to up to 2011. So southern part of Sudan has been isolated, and they have the self-determination. What came after that, the pressure. After isolation of the southern part of Sudan, the problem has not been solved because the superpower has created important issue with ABA, which is the oil reserves. 85% of the uh, oil reserves of Sudan so far is still going on. Once the southern part of Sudan solved their problems, the they have the result has the study has result that all occupying country in Sudan countries, even the governments of Sudan, has created the Sudan southern part of Sudan, and despite the methodology used by the occupying powers and the government, that the problem and the loss of trust between the north and south has led to this issue. So the government addressed the issue in a different the southern part of Sudan, and the has seek sought refuge and support from superpowers, so to enhance the nationalism and finally to be isolated. This has led to isolation. We have other detail in my study about how the nationalists deal. They have to understand that any superpower they came to defend their own interests. And these nationalists should seek solutions for own interest without seek help from outside. Thank you very Thank you. Thank Dr. Ahmed Ali for his information and about the nature of in the name of Allah. My question directed to Dr. Yuni and Dr. Muhammad Bahlul. They tackled the Turkish issue and the exploitation of this issue. In 2009, I met with Muslims in Hajj, and there was groups from Kurdistan. When they saw my ID, they saw Palestine. They are 20, and everyone they shake hand with me, and they said, please convey our regards to the Palestine. For the first time, uh, the for the first time to see the flag or the Israeli flag in the hand of the women of Kurdistan. So thousands of people were carrying an Israeli flag in their hands. This is there any? Do you have monitored in your study? Do you monitor how the Israel have intervened? Do you have any recommendation on this issue? Thank you. One more question. May I take two questions? In the name of Allah, thank you very much. And I thank all the presenters. Doctor, about the Israeli role in the region and commenting on Dr. Ahmed about the southern part of Sudan. It looks like that it speaks about the American role in Sudan. It seems like in the isolation of the South, it is not the superpower or international powers. We all know that Israel has its own projects and interest in the southern part of Sudan, and it contributed to directing the elite in the South Sudan to be isolated. Could you please give us some, or may highlight this part, the southern part of Sudan as a model for a state isolated or segregated? Can we say that there is a possibility that the two parts of Sudan may come back again? People now became very close to each other. The South and South now they realized the atrocities and sufferings. Is it possible that they will be integrated into one country again? Thank you. Thank you. Please, very brief question, please, because we are running out of time. Yeah. The exploitation of the superpower of the ethnic groups and the nationalities, it is not a new. the United Kingdom have also exploited the Arab nationalism against the Turkish, and the United States also exploited Turkish against the Soviet Union, and during the Cold War. So the superpower is exploiting any power that may do something or create change in the region. So I am saying that the question is to Muhammad. Now, can Kurds create this? Could they destabilize the Middle East? The question, yes. So we need more, yeah, more answers. Saeed Bakr Ahmed. I'm from Chad. And my question is about the national state. As as a Chad, Chad is very close to Sudan, and even the biological and tribal combination, tribal structure. The Chad colonized by France, Sudan by English. Now people saying that minorities, if they rule in some area, they are trying to be, they may manage the state in a perfect way. We have suffered from bad experience of Temple Bar. The first president of Chad, he was Christian, 1960 to 75. There was massacres and dictatorship. The question now, people believe to Muhammad Adam. You see that the superpower who divided the South from North. Do you think that they have marginalized the ruling party, ruling regime of this in appointing the public? We make some true related to so that therefore another region is isolated. Thank you.
And then for the favor of the country that is running the referendum. In fact, if you really ask the Kurdish people, maybe their standpoint would have been from the government in Kurdistan. No. So there was restrictions or instructions by the National Union and the direction, and they already know that this was will not benefit the Kurds are having an independent state and surrounded by countries that they will never give it an opportunity to advance and develop. So the dominance of the region, the regional government was that referendum. As for the question raised, can the Kurds destabilize the stability in the Middle East? Yes, they can do that through many ways. If the referendum had been successful in a unified Kurdish state, there will be an increase in the number of the countries in the Middle East, and that, and then it will be dismantled into three countries: the Kurds, the Iranian Kurds, and the Turkish Kurds, the Syrian Kurds will be in three states, and therefore, independence of the Kurdistan state or could have reached that stage. And this will enhance the interference of the external forces and the foreign forces. And consequently, because our conference, we will talk about what puts us together or what puts us together, not what divides us. The role, the American role and the Israeli role. The America is ruled and is governed by the Zionist and the Israeli lobbies. Now let's talk about the American position that supports that. Now, if we want, and this is quite known, and it executes the American policies and politics, and the role of Israel in shaping the American political decision is quite known. هل issues that can that Sudan comes back to it now the suddenly a large number of them are moving towards the north despite the fact that they chose the separation voluntarily because the pledges and the promises by the elite and leaders when the fund did not fund state or state constituents and the restore the unity of Sudan. The people are in the freedom, the unity will come. But as political factions, parties, and international forces, they will not allow the North to be united back to the South. The role of marginalization on the paper may be time because time is very limited. Colonization and international forces and the consecutive governments be partially the responsibility of the South Sudan separation. After the first government, the consecutive government did not work to have a mechanism, even in the Nevada and Nevada, to attract citizens to the unity. But the events that took place all over the 60s, 70s, you cannot rectify and recover that and cure that in 6 or 7 years. So the issue of marginalization, the undistribution of the gave chance and the opportunity to internal forces to divide the divide and more. And I find, first of all, I would like to thank my brother who raised the issue of the Southern had a great impact. Please, your direct question, because of the time constraint, please, we would like to end the session. What is your direct question, please? I'm not, I'm not, I'm not questioning. I'm not asking. Maybe you may postpone your comment, Mr. Masoud. My question to Dr. Ahmed, you talked about the issue of Sudan could have solved some of the border issues, such as the Abbey, where the city of which was named the City of Unity, and still there are certain differences among some districts. So I think that there was a referendum by United Nations in which other people took place and took part in it. I would like you to answer this question: Is is this problem still existing? You have talked about the religious dimension in the issue of South Sudan. I talked about the American role, and I did not ignore the role of executive governments in the problem of South Sudan. And so, executive successive government did not realize the impact of that. And here in my study, I just focus on the role of the United States in the separation of South and other addition to some countries in order to include South and the North. Even Al-Ghazal Sea now, most of which was
لو مكث زبير باشا في جنوب ل 25 سنه لتغيرت التركيبه الامنيه والعرقيه والدينيه في السودان ده قضيه ثانيه وجانب.
That is another issue. You talked about the APA city. Northern districts are three, and the southern districts three, the northern districts are six. And when the government was about to know that Al-Ghazal area was to be in the north, and it stands for the of the citizens of South Sudan. When the government shouldn't that even they prevented the Arab costume, the Arab names, the Arab food, and also the إيش؟
I shouldn't isolate an issue without marking the borders unless there is pressure. So it is not rational to isolate a country, to divide the country, and ABA, no one, the tribe of Denka cannot give up this area, and even the Bagara tribes cannot leave this area because millions of cows they used to come during drought. They need this for their cattle. 85% of oil reserves located in this area. Unless there is pressure, clear pressure on all sides for that this convention should be signed this time. Thank you, Doctor. Finally, and on behalf of you all, I thank the speakers for their uh, papers. Stability of the Middle East is subject to dealing with this through a political formula that make compatibility between the interests of the region. So this, unless this compatibility is maintained, the area will be subject to influence. So our efforts should go towards a formula that create coexistence and and maintain our mutual and common interests. We should cooperate and continue. Thank you all. Thank you all for attending the conference.